All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission to order. It is 6. Alicia, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Gaunt? Commissioner Croy? Here. Chair Rosen?
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman?
Here.
Commissioner Gidroy?
Here.
All right, everyone is present. Bill, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Please join me as we salute our flag. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Item 4.1, recognition of department employees. Oh, how soon we forget. Robert, would you?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Typically, as you have come accustomed to, we've had one, maybe two opportunities to do Employees of the Month during presentations. And in lieu of that, for this month, we've decided to do employees of the last 3 years and counting, probably more. And so I want to take the opportunity to thoroughly embarrass 2 of the department's most dedicated in helping in the creation and development of this department and really its success thus far. So without further ado, I want to first give you a quick rundown of what's going on. I think most of you know, although Alan's expertise in CIP management and maintenance specifications, as well as all of the bidding and everything else that has come with that, is going to be transitioned, or has already been transitioned over to our Public Works Department, and they're going to be benefiting, and already have been, from all of his knowledge and understanding of that process. So we're going to miss him because he's really helped set up a firm structure both in our design standards, our landscape and irrigation standards, and also our a lot of our turnover processes. So that is really just a testament of Alan's just small piece of his skill set that we've really benefited from, and he's an immense amount of knowledge and information in irrigation, and I think this city stole him from Paris, if I'm not mistaken, and so now engineering gets to steal him from us. But at least he stays in this city, and that's always a plus. So we're going to miss Alan, and then also we're going to miss Margarita, who, as you know, has been integral in helping with putting all of our thoughts and wishes into concrete black and white figures and making sense of the mess that has been the last 3 years to ensure this department looks like a department, and that this commission runs as a well-oiled machine, from our annual budget to our ongoing monitoring of our finances. Margaret has been really the engine. So we're going to miss her immensely. And so I want to bring them both up and recognize them, and I would like the commission to come up as well to get a quick picture with both of them. We have some certificates and a couple of other things I want to present when they come up. So if you guys would all join me in front of the dais.
You realize it's very important. She's going to finance. We have to stay on good terms.
So we'll go with ladies first. Margarita, this certificate from the commission thanking you for your service and dedication and assistance in helping develop this department. We really, truly appreciate it. And if anybody would like to say anything.
What can we say? I mean, you will be sorely missed.
I'd like to thank you for always having Marty's hole puncher ready to go.
And so do I.
You've done a great job. Thanks so much.
Let's squeeze in for a quick photo. We'll get you. Sometimes these phones are even better. So Alan, as I mentioned earlier, he's been the muscle, and you all remember from when the department was first starting up, and before that, he was really moving all the equipment, organizing and coordinating materials and vendors and everything else under the sun. That's right. That's right. So Alan, on behalf of myself, Commission, truly appreciate everything you've done for the department. You're going to be missed, but I know I'm going to keep bugging you, probably on a daily basis, so thank you. And before they disappear, a couple of little things here, because so before you guys sit down and before they disappear, a couple of things that you may or may not have known about both of these folks is they have very unique tastes in specific things, and so as a parting gift, we wanted to just impart a couple of little things to them. One is because Alan can never get enough, and as a one of the cook-off chefs in the city, we want to make sure he's fully stocked for upcoming challenges like the chili cook-off. So, Alan, here is your final supply from the Department of Sriracha. Okay.
So this is actually one ingredient that I haven't used yet.
In the chili.
In the
Okay,
chili, so
well,
maybe next time.
there we go. And then, if you have seen at the events, on occasion, actually probably every occasion, Margarita is an avid photographer. And we have benefited many times from her creative positioning and capturing of moments. And so we wanted to make sure she continues that effort, because she's always trying to learn new ways to frame experiences. And so we did get her a magazine to a Digital Photo Pro, so she could learn a little bit more about that, and I'm sure she'll still be out taking more photos, so we'll see her soon. And then one last thing, because you guys in your new workspaces, I know that you may have limited space, and I'm hoping you can find some in Allen, maybe the same. We wanted to give you guys each a little parting gift and reminder of what parks are all about, which is green space. So when you're in City Hall, you're not missing the parks too much. So there's one, and there was another one. Oh, right there. Perfect. So thank you guys both. Really appreciate it. We're going to miss you. Yeah.
Hey, Robert, I'd like to make one formal request right now. If we ever need a bus driver or a co-driver, I think we have the two best in the city.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I started moving. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay. Item 5, approval of the meeting minutes of December 3. Are there any changes required?
None.
Gentlemen,
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes of December 3 are approved unanimously. Item 6, is there any modification to the agenda?
None.
Thank you. So the agenda remains as is. Any public comments?
We have none.
Okay. That brings us to discussion items. And the first one, 8.1, officer elections. We will begin with the election for commission chair. Do I have any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Bill Zimmerman, our present co-chair, as the
And
new commission chair.
do I have a second?
I'll give you a second.
Okay.
I'll give it a third. Out of order.
You're out of order. All in favor?
Aye.
Bill, you are now the commission chair, and you and I are going to swap
You wanna
chairs.
switch now? All right. All right.
Guess I should have waited.
It's on.
Thank you. So before we move on, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the nominations. I appreciate that. And, but I also want to mention the chair that we've had for a year and a half, Marty Rosen, and he's done a yeoman's job, always conducted our meetings very on point and meticulously. And so certainly appreciate that. And I think everybody probably shares the same thought. So thank you, Marty, for doing such a great job. You set the bar high. All right, so with that, we're going to now take discussion for vice chair. Does anybody have a
I
motion?
would nominate Tom. I will nominate Tom for vice chair.
Okay,
I would second that.
we have a motion and a second. Tom, is that something you would accept? Good, you know, and I would have nominated you myself. I've always appreciated a lot of the things that you've said. You bring great points, and I even told Robert the other day how much I appreciate all of the things that you've brought as a commissioner. You're very impressive. So with that, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Tom, you're vice chair, so very good. I will try not to miss too many meetings. All right, let's move on to our next item.
Flood alert.
Amber alert.
It's going to rain.
That's not any better.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and move on. Robert, we're at item 8.2, Valley Health System application for the grant. Can you give us an update, please?
I can just as soon as I get the clicker to work. Just do it by manually is fine. Now it works. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Commission Chair. And as I think most of you have heard, we've provided a summary to you in the past about grant opportunities, one of which includes Valley House System grant, which essentially is the overreaching organization that supports the Menifee Valley Hospital. This particular grant is somewhat of an endowment of money set aside with the intent of improving the health and wellness of residents in the region. And so we had found out about this opportunity through a number of other organizations within Menifee who had benefited in prior funding cycles. and met with a couple of the representatives from Valley Health who highly recommended that we apply, given our new directions in the department and efforts to try and make Menifee residents more active, healthy, and vibrant. And so as a result, the application that is in the staff report reflects an effort on staff's part to put together a program and a number of capital improvements that seek to do just that. And again, I'm going to provide a thank you to both Alan and Margarita for their work on compiling this grant application, as well as Jason and his staff. As you can see in front of you on the screen is a budget breakdown of what we are intending to apply for. And in essence, it is a combination of exercise, gardening, and education that we are asking Valley Health Systems to support in the amount of $50,000, and then the city's contribution to that would be $5,200. And the total scope of this includes a number of elements. As you can see on the screen on the left side, there does already exist a community garden that at the senior center. It's actually just south of the headquarters building, currently used by a number of seniors. The intent is to install a kiosk and provide some additional education and solid programming to complement the existing community garden through the recreation staff. The kiosk would be used to post nutrition facts, planting facts, seasonal opportunities, and then also hold occasional master gardener, or I guess gardening sessions led by master gardeners who can provide tips to the community on what to plant and how to be self-sustaining and green. Below that is really the kickoff point of a trailhead, we'll call an urban trailhead, from the walkway leading to the North Annex, a community co-op. Currently, that area right there, it's in the middle of the screen. You see the ADA handlebars there on either side of the walkway. That tends to be a very popular spot for kids to hang out and wait for the school bus. And so we wanted to maximize that space a little bit more and encourage kids and adults who come to the annex and to the senior center to be active outside of the center. There's the adjacent neighborhood that folks they come in from, but they don't typically venture out to when they come to the center. And so this trailhead, this starting point, would continue north on Evans and then work its way right into Lazy Creek Park with a ADA curb cut ramp to get across the street and also walk around on a circuit Lazy Creek Park and utilize some new parkour fitness equipment in the park. And then in addition, from the center, they'd be able to check out pedometers and be a part of a walking and fitness club to really benchmark and become part of a routine fitness program and then track their results over time. And so on the right-hand side, you see there some examples of some fitness equipment and some kiosks for use by residents of all ages. Some can be specifically for seniors, some can be for all ages, some can be for younger ones, but there is quite a selection to choose from. And then finally, here's the map of the route I was referring to. On the bottom there, you'll see the senior center and then the footprints leading all the way into the park with a circuit around the park, and those lighter, I guess you could call that kind of khaki color, is where the fitness stations could be placed with a DG walking trail around the backside of the park where there currently is no walkway. So all of these funds would be used to accomplish this and start something very cool in this area of town. And hopefully, if it's successful, we want to spread this throughout the rest of the city as we continue to grow our facilities. So the action before you is to recommend council approve the application because it does require execution by the city manager and the mayor. Council did review on consent this item last night, so your review tonight is really a courtesy and to also let you know that we still want to submit this application. That concludes my report.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Lennox. So any commission comments or questions? Commissioner Croy?
Yeah, this is exciting, and I'd love to see this repeated time and time and time again. This is exactly what we're talking about, getting out and giving people in all sections of our city connectivity. And even though this isn't an equestrian trail, it is a trail which encourages people to get out and exercise and enjoy the fresh air. And especially when you put a plan in place like this, it really encourages people to get out there and use it and abuse it and wear out those exercise equipment. And I believe a couple of years ago, we were looking at the Salt Creek Trail behind the Oasis up there, and we had the opportunity. We ran into a couple that said the gentleman had some heart problems. He says, "This trail up here saved my life."
That's right.
Because I'm now out taking care of myself.
I remember that.
And that was really heartfelt and really touching, and it's exactly what we need. Thank you.
Commissioner Gaunt?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have a question on, I think it's a great idea too, and I ditto everything that was just said. I was going to ask about the walkway between the center and Lazy Park. That's just the normal sidewalk, correct? And is there any anticipated problems with people, so many people, or is it that it's not going to be a constant flow of people walking through there? I'm just wondering if any backlash from any neighbors or homeowners on the street.
It's doubtful that we would get that, although because it is part of the public right-of-way, we are entitled to use it for this thing, for this sort of use. Although I would say we aren't intending to do any, let's say, mile markers along the way. At the start of the walk, part of the programming includes providing the participants with that route on paper, so they know where to go, where to cross, where to come back, that sort of thing. We want to have a minimum impact because it still is a neighborhood. So, yeah.
Any other comments?
I'll move, oops.
Hang on, I do have a comment. I just want to make a quick recommendation because I'm on a couple of local service organizations who have applied and received money, and they've given us comments. Valley Health Board has given us comments following our presentations and applications. They're least interested in providing funds for infrastructure. They really have encouraged programs because we kind of told them some of the things that we wanted to buy equipment and things like that, and they were saying that's not what we're all about. We really are about programs. So it's great that you explain how it's going to be used, and I encourage you to do so when you apply to them because, like I said, they like the program. So anyway, with that, we'll Commissioner Gidroy. Yeah.
I notice in the project accomplishments, there is a mention of 10 senior participants per session, 10 to 15 in the nutrition garden. So if we can emphasize that point, that would track with what you're talking about.
They like seeing results, people, and benefits and things like that. And I think they just don't want people spending the money to buy exercise equipment and things like that. That was kind of something that was discouraged to us. So just want to pass that along to you. With that,
I'll
anybody wanna
move
we have a motion from Commissioner Rosen.
move that we recommend that the city council accept this, what do we call it, proposal?
Sure.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right. Moving right along, our next item is item 8.3. It's resolution number 16496, and it is a recommendation that the city council adopt a LAFCO taking proceedings for detachment to Valley-wide Recreation Park District from the city of Menifee. Commissioner Rosen, do you have a comment?
Not on this. I just wanted to ask one thing of Robert. I don't know if you realize but for some reason, the red markers that used to be between the different items is not there. I would request that it be there from now on.
We'll get you some red markers.
Thank you.
We're
Makes it
alre-
easy to jump from one to another.
We're already
I'm sorry, go
beginning to
ahead.
miss Margarita already. All right, so Director Lennox, would you take it from here, please?
Sure, thank you. To give you a little bit of background, if you recall, and I think some of you may have been present at the meeting, City Council meeting last year. It was last year, December 16th, when Council did review the department's mid-year report and received and filed that in addition to reviewing and discussing the opportunity for the city to possibly operate and maintain the recreation and landscaped areas on the east side of the I-215 freeway via a pending detachment of Valleywide from the city of Menifee. And so the council did make a provide a direction to staff to proceed with that. Staff did review the detachment application and found that one requirement is that the council has to adopt and approve a resolution, a formal resolution, to submit a detachment application. So this is sort of a housekeeping item, but it is required and does have to be included in the actual application when it's submitted. This also would give staff an opportunity to provide the commission with an update of some of the numbers and facts and figures associated with East Side operations so that you're fully aware of what's coming and what will be part of that application when it is submitted. So I'm going to take a few minutes to give you that overview. As you guys all know, there's been several public records requests that were submitted to Valleywide over the last couple of years. And from the information received, we were able to analyze and put together a plan for maintaining those areas. We've utilized Webb & Associates to do some of that work. They are currently the financial firm the city uses for all of the special tax district administration, so this is a little bit of extra work for them. And in essence, the East Side operations boils down to three main landscape and lighting maintenance districts that are all part of the Valleywide operation. The total includes about 30 zones and 13,700 EDUs or units. Of those, only about 10,620 are currently occupied or built out. So it's about 78% complete. If you're like me, you're more visual, this is the area in question. As you can see, the red area is all three zones together and represents a portion of the city equivalent to about 1.7% of Valleywide's total district area. By contrast, though, the revenues, the assessments collected from these units within these three zones represents about 40% of Valleywide's total district revenue. So there's a little disproportionate accounting there when you really think about it. And this next slide puts it into even bigger perspective. The yellow area is Valleywide's total area, and it's 536 square miles. And within the city, really only, it's a smaller amount, obviously. It's 9 square miles. So that is the 1.7% that we're referring to. So you can see the red area in comparison to the yellow outlined area.
Robert, do you mind going back one
Sure.
slide? So we see the area in red, and we know that that's what Valleywide is assessing those residences.
Correct.
But there are other residences around there that are not part of the assessment.
That is correct.
I was under the impression that the entire area would have been being assessed.
No, only the areas in red. And so other areas that happen to be on the east side but not in the red areas, they either are not part of a special tax district or they are part of a different special tax district. For example, LLMD 891C, which this department does have responsibility for on the landscape portion. That does fall over onto the east side as well. And some of that overlaps in the red area, but most of it is in the non-red area, I would refer to. But yes, so there are plenty of residents who don't pay into that area but are on the east side.
Interesting. Commissioner Croy, do you have a question?
A quick question. Because, is some of that because some of these areas were there before Valleywide had control of it? Or I do notice that there's like a large portion of those rural areas, it's just the fact that there's never been an instrument, voted in by the residents to make that happen.
Well, the way that the LLMDs get established, and I'm going back quite a ways because this is prior to city incorporation, and the county had really a major role in establishing these in the very beginning. They actually were initiated by new housing developments, and so what you'll see on the upcoming slides is how they really kind of piggyback off of each other. Let me get to that real quick. There we go. So, for example, in the what we call the original zone, which is the north zone, you'll see, or north LLMD, you'll see a number of zones and annexations that happen in increments. So the original zone is essentially the striped area, and then you'll see the annexations that came online as years thereafter, meaning new subdivisions came on and they were conditioned to annex into the LLMD, and then obviously the district grew piece by piece along the way. And so it's really the same across the board for all three of the LLMDs. So for example, this is which one is that? This is South. I'm sorry, this is LLMD South, Menifee Parks, or Menifee South, and then this is I'm sorry, this is Menifee North. Mm-hmm. This is Menifee Parks, and this is Menifee South. So those are just names. Don't worry, don't pay attention to those too much. But there's just three different ones. They all came on at different points with different annexations, and that's how they grew to that final picture that you saw with the red areas.
Thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner Rosen had a question?
Yeah, can you go back to the original one further? One more. Yes. The blue dotted line is the city boundary. The yellow is outside of the city boundary.
Yes.
So even though that may or may not be part of Valleywide, it doesn't impact us.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So, in essence, during this process of analyzing the information we received, we were able to pull from the engineers' reports in the annual budgets provided by Valleywide what rates are being used in each and every zone and every tract within those zones to maintain all the square footage of landscape that's provided within. And as a result, you'll see the rates that Valleywide currently uses, and then the rates that the city uses or could use. And the only one that really stands out here is trees. And when I say trees, typically the unit of measure for every other area of landscaping is done by square foot. For trees, it's done by tree. And so in this case, it's about $23 per parcel assessment on trees to be maintained. It's from the documents provided by Valleywide, there was no clarity about how funding for trees is achieved, although the trees are a part of the maintenance responsibility. And so we wanted to make sure we didn't lose anything, and we included that as a line item expense. And so when you crunch it all down, in summary, in total, our estimates are that the city would be able to provide the same service at about 2% less. What you see in Menifee North zone of an overage of 3, or a higher cost of 3%, is 100% related to that tree line item, because There is some question about how many trees and how often they're maintained, because it's not clear in the valley-wide budgets that were provided. So we would rather play it safe rather than sorry and conservative, and as a result, this is what we believe is a very comfortable number in order to maintain these areas. Some of the pitfalls of doing things the way they have been and keeping them that way as a status quo include the fact that on the east side in these zones, there are a number of basins that are currently maintained via Valleywide, although Valleywide does not have an MS4 permit, which is required for certain types of basin maintenance, fossil filter maintenance, and so on. Not all, but certain kinds. And so the city does have that permit and would be the proper authority to maintain those. There is an uncertainty of the expenditures of the tax dollars within the city boundaries. As I showed you before, 40% of the revenue for only 1.7% of the overall area makes you kind of scratch your head. How does that possibly just stay within the city boundaries? The finances that were provided didn't clearly show that all $3.7 million was being spent only in these three areas. So that's a concern. And then right now, there's a non-uniform standard of maintenance from east and west sides. And the benefit of doing it all the same is that people can expect a standard across the board, no matter if they're from Roma Land or from Quell Valley or Menifee Lakes. It would be the same experience for all residents. And let's see, right now, when a citizen has a concern about a condition of a park or a landscape parkway, they don't know who to call. They're not sure what belongs to whom. And so when they call, it's a little bit of an investigation to figure out, all right, where is that at? Who's the right, where's the phone number you need? What is it? And so it's confusing. And a lot of times people get lost in the shuffle and trying to get their problems answered. Right now, when we do plan checks of new projects on the east side of the freeway, there's conflicts. The city has a standard. You all have been part of approving that standard. And that standard isn't always the same as Valleywide standard. And so city is very confident that the standard we've come up with is one that should be adhered to across the board because it's we believe it's a higher standard than what Valleywide's current standards are. And of course, payment of Quimby and DIF fees. Right now, there's a lot of question. Who does it go to? Really, it should go to the city to ensure that as we invest in future open space and park development, the city has the best interest of its residents in mind, not necessarily Hemet, San Jacinto, or other areas within Valleywide's district. So just a reminder that back in December of 2014, LAFCO did review a request from Valleywide to expand their sphere of influence beyond the I-215 freeway to the furthest west border of the city of Menifee. And staff was at that meeting and was asked to speak on the item and expressed the concern to the commission that we didn't think this was a good idea. And LAFCO Commission agreed and provided direction on these 4 points in order to ensure that the city continued to maintain its own destiny and seek local control. And one was that we had to establish our own park and rec operation, and that's what the department's purpose has been since it was established. The second was to show a track record. Part of the mid-year report was to do just that and show that participation's up, revenue's up, standards are up across the board. And then gain concurrence from the council on the desire to submit the application, and that's what was prevalent during the December 16th meeting of the council. And finally, once ready, sit down with Valleywide and come up with a plan for transition so that those facilities that are on the east side can still be maintained without anyone having a lapse in service. So that's essentially what it incorporates, the item and the resolution in a nutshell.
Excellent. I think Commissioner Rosen was first.
Just a question. Nowhere in here does it mention the fact that the people of Menifee are not paying the same amount of money. you know, literally, the people on the east side are paying roughly 3 times what the people on the west side are paying for the same thing. So shouldn't somewhere in here we indicate that we have to normalize it? Same people, same city, same fee?
That actually is the intent in the long term. What I want to point out here is you see there's already an estimate that will be 2% less to provide this service. What that means is we have an opportunity in that first year that this occurs to either build up a more healthy reserve by still collecting those assessments but spending less, or lower the assessments for each property owner. Those are what's on the table immediately once the detachment application is approved by LAFCO. Then thereafter, staff, just like we've done on the west side, will find ways to reduce costs overall. As you saw in the mid-year report, we've been able to reduce our utility consumption at many of our parks by almost 50%. We believe we can do the same on the east side, meaning bottom line, after the first year of operation and management by city, we'd like to come back to the property owners and say, we want to reduce your assessments even more because we don't need as much money that you've been paying this whole time. We want a year to test that we need to figure out exactly how much it costs to do that. And then long term, finding a way to do the normalization across the entire city. It does become a little tricky because you're dealing with 2 different special tax district mechanisms. On the west side, you've got CFDs and a CSA, a couple CSAs, and on the east side, you've got a series of LLMDs. They fund different things. As you know, the city did approve a citywide CFD a few months back. That is a mechanism that could be used, but it may require the vote of all residents who would be affected by that, by shifting them from a LLMD or a CSA or a CFD to the single citywide CFD. So it could come down to a ballot item in the long run.
May I?
Continue.
Yeah. In the long run, somewhere along the way, the people on the east side, I can see them welcoming a lower cost, obviously. But it could end up with the people on the west side going up. And that would require a vote.
It would, yes, and therein lies the difficulty of the process. You're absolutely right. One of the mechanisms, though, if you're considering eliminating a tax district or converting it, merging it, so to speak, the rules say that you don't have to have a majority yes vote. You need to have at least 25% or if at least 25% or less people don't oppose it, then it would pass. So, yes, it's interesting. There are a couple ways to approach it, but it is going to be a difficult process when we get there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Croy.
Yeah, could you go back to the slide with the 4 options, the 4 accomplishments? There you go. It seems like numbers 1 through 3 you've done very successfully. The question is, do we anticipate any difficulties negotiating this? And what is a possible timeline?
Yes.
Exactly what I thought.
Yes.
Also, I've heard that from several people that you can't do it cheaper than Valley.
Who's saying that, Valley?
Just people I talk to in the community. The thing that always gets me is I don't know that we want cheap. I think if the people that have been living here for a long time and are paying a certain assessment on their property see a massive increase in their quality, facilities, equipment, and they're paying the same, that's a win. That is a big win. I always refer to my kids who talk about one of the Valley-wide facilities, and they go, Dad, when we take our daughter there, my granddaughter, there's no place to sit, there's no shade, it's too hot. What's going on? I think we have a golden opportunity here to give the taxpayer much more bang for their buck, and if at some point we can lower those assessments, that's even a bigger win. But I think the emphasis on quality parks and equipment should be the overriding concern, and there's no doubt in my mind that we can do it.
To your point, I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because part of the application process and the whole intent and whole purpose of LAFCO's existence is for cities that are incorporated, newly incorporated, taking on their own responsibilities and local control. The measuring stick, so to speak, isn't just cost, meaning the Cortez-Hertzberg-Knox Act essentially says if that local agency can prove that they can provide the service cheaper or at a better quality. It doesn't have to be both. Cheaper or at a better quality. If it is both, then wonderful. But then it passes the smell test, and the commission is more inclined to say yes to it. That's why the past year and a half or so has been critical to show that track record, that we can do it, the standard's high, it can continue to be high on the other side of the freeway, and the cost, the lower cost, is just a byproduct of being efficient and frugal and very cost effective.
And what we have seen here is that parks as a quality issue, nobody ever makes money on parks. But it's a matter of doing the most with what you got. We know that parks and programs are generally anywhere from 30 to 60% in the red and funded by fees and stuff like that. But I think once we pass number 4 here, I'm looking forward to it.
Commissioner Gidroy?
I was going to say further to what Commissioner Croy is saying, the numbers we've seen so far reported at that mid-year report show that the attendance of the programs is up, the satisfaction of the customers of the department is up, and the costs are going down, so we're absolutely in the right direction now. And I would say, what, in another year, perhaps we revisit this, and then we'd have to sort out how to take it to the next level, which would be, do we keep the lighting district, do we go over to the CFD, something like that? It's all going the right way. Do we have an idea how long the transition would take? I know we're talking about, we've heard about resistance. We were in a council meeting where we heard that. Has that been discussed? Any ideas?
Yes, we know that the application process takes between 4 to 5 months from the point of submittal. That's what LAFCO's informed us of. Really, that's their safe guess because they have to agendize it, and I'm sure they get plenty of requests for various things, spheres of influence studies or all kinds of stuff, service studies. So that really just gets it on the agenda. And once it is on the agenda, though, upon review by the commission, their decision that evening, that day, that whenever that meeting is instantaneous. They would provide direction from that point to both agencies to meet and work on that transition. And that timeline we won't know until we meet with them. But the anticipation is, and we've heard from one of the Valley-wide board members, that they won't necessarily go without a fight. And I've already implied that there should be some effort to, by the city, to pay for the parks that would then be transitioned over to the city. But the assessment that the city has is if those parks were paid for by LLMD dollars, meaning taxpayer dollars, or as dedications from developers, which is also part of a tax mechanism, why would we make taxpayers pay for them again? That would be taxing them twice for the same facility. So the thought that we have is, no, they belong to the people. They don't belong to the district. So.
Aisha, does anybody fill out a speaker slip?
No.
Okay. All right, with that, any other comments? Does anybody want to move for providing a recommendation to the council?
One other thought concerning the facilities themselves, there's also the maintenance of them, so there's equipment and personnel, so we have to allow for those as well. I'm sorry, in addition to the facilities themselves, which Valley-wide has control of, whether it's ownership or not, there's also the maintenance, which requires equipment and personnel. So I'm curious if, what we're doing to address that.
The figures on the screen include all of it.
Okay.
Any other?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a great plan, well put together, and I think we ought to move ahead. And I would move that we,
Recommend?
for approval as recommended.
Okay, we have a motion, Marty second, all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
All right, we're moving with the recommendation. All right, item 9, Community Service Director comments. Robert, please take it from here.
Thank you, Chair. Important dates are actually from December. It's a New Year's. We haven't had a chance to update our dates, but it is very quiet in January, thank goodness. I know Jason and Mark both appreciate the break, chance to breathe and relax. But with that, we have still been moving along on a number of our capital improvement projects. We have started reviewing the plans for the Sun City Boulevard median project. And once we get the final from the contractor, we're going to be submitting those to EMWD to get them to sign off. And after that, it's pretty quick and heavy to get that done. On the Paloma Wash Trail, we're still waiting for approval of a purchase order to do the re-slurry of that trail. Very popular trail, as you all have seen, but it's in a little bit of disrepair. I think with the adjacent construction and just time, there's been some settling, and so there's a lot of cracks in the asphalt, and it's wearing out a bit. So that's ready to go. And then we do have picnic shelters that we want to install over at E.L. Peterson Park. You guys have been informed about that. We have already issued a purchase order. We've been, this past week, just doing color selections, and then it goes into production. We should have them in a few weeks and can do installation and demolition of the existing structure at that point. And also pouring of a new concrete pads, because some of these are a little bit bigger than the old ones we're taking down. And let's see, the park furnishings, we do have an inventory of what we need. It's, as the example I've used before, Lyle Marsh Park has wonderful picnic shelter structures, no picnic tables, and very old trash receptacles. So that project will be placing an order to a vendor hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then just wait for those to arrive, and then our maintenance staff will be busy doing the installation of those. Rancho Ramona Park restroom building, we're still reviewing some designs and trying to determine what the best location is for hookup to utilities. As you know, that site used to be an HOA facility, and so there's a couple options on both sides to hook up to existing sewer, water, and electric. And we did close the bidding for skate park enhancements for security for both fencing and security cameras. The fencing will start in, I believe, next week, pending weather. They're going to start doing some of the fence improvements. The turnstile, 88 turnstile that will have the magnetic timed lock on it will be installed probably as a last piece, because it has some lead time. But then also the security cameras, electricity for that has already been pulled to the point of connection, and those will be ready to go very soon. Here's a couple of examples of other things that we're working on. It's probably hard to see that site layout from the Sun City Boulevard plan, but the areas in orange are the landscaped areas along Sun City Boulevard. And then, of course, we are doing the park monument enhancements with the city logo. It'll be core drilled into the concrete and then recessed within there and glued in. So it would be very difficult to pull out. All of those monuments did get painted this past couple weeks, I believe, and they're also getting graffiti coated. So they're going to be pretty bulletproof after we're done with them. Parks in Progress update. There hasn't been a lot of progress since the last time we met, because December usually is a pretty quiet time for developers. mostly because city staff isn't really here. Most of them are out on vacation or something. So nothing new to report there. The Mylars for Central Park arrived, a revision to Mylars arrived today. So those are going to be signed hopefully this week and sent back to them. And then we are in discussions with some folks in city of Wildemar about connection to the Salt Creek Trail as part of the county's project. So that's moving along, and hopefully we'll meet with them in the next week or so. Any questions on CIPs or Parks in Progress?
Yes, on Salt Creek Trail, wasn't there a meeting last month with county and Caltrans? How'd that go?
I'm not sure about with Caltrans. I wasn't privy to that, but there was one with the city and the county on it.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it was fine. I think the focus of conversation was on how to overcome the crossings at Marietta, Bradley, and Normandy. Those 3 locations. They're a little tricky. They're all 3 of them are in low spots, and there's pending bridges, as you know, across Bradley and Marietta. So we'll still work toward that. The first segment A, as they call it, can still commence before they move on to the other pieces to be engineered.
Did we determine if there's going to be a trail on both sides of the channel?
Just the north side of it.
Just north only?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
I'd like to have Jason take care of the recreation report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to give the recreation update this evening. December, as Robert mentioned, was an extremely busy month for the recreation team, and obviously with a lot of support from the parks team as well. But just to go over some of the numbers, our senior center drop-in enrichment programs dipped a little bit. Just had a lot of seniors going out of town, and we had some dark times where the classes were not offered, but we still had 33 classes throughout the month with over 2,300 participants. The after-school program at Lazy Creek went up by 1 participant, so they're up to 27 daily now. The Lazy Creek preschool program continues to be popular with 74 participants monthly over 4 different classes. And then the big highlights in December, of course, were our special events that we had, our citywide special events. Our Breakfast with Santa event, which was held on December 5th. We had 300 participants in this one. It was completely sold out. Great event. Aisha and Erica did a wonderful job coordinating that. A lot of smiles. I know Robert took his kids, and they had a great time. We received nothing but positive feedback from the community on that event, so it was really well received. Then, of course, the same day we had the Spirit Park grand opening, which I know most of the commissioners were able to attend. It was great to see you all there. As you know, that was a very successful event. We estimated over 800 people in attendance. And then the greatest thing that I noticed about it was even passing by a little bit later in the day, people were still there in masses enjoying the park, and that's what it's all about. So they really had a great time. The shelters are being used on a fairly regular basis by residents. Tennis courts are in hot demand, getting ready to start our tennis lessons out there very soon. And I noticed that the basketball courts also used pretty regularly out there as well. So great event there on December 5th as well. Then, of course, next weekend we had our Christmas tree lighting ceremony, which one of the greatest accomplishments I think we were able to do is that parking was actually a highlight of the event this year from the residents. So thanks to Mark and his team and Public Works and police, or the Sheriff's Department, everybody came together to just turn that negative into a positive this year, and I think that we can just continue to get better on that. And then everything else went really well. We had over 3,000 people in attendance throughout the evening. I know most of you were there as well. Great tree lighting. Santa took probably over 500 pictures. The snow zone was well attended. Just a really great event for the community. And then we had our first time we rolled this out, the Santa on Wheels program. Started on December 13th and went all the way through December 22nd, and pretty much 7 days a week for the entire time that it was going on, in which Santa and one of the staff members went out to homes. Santa and his elves went out to homes and conducted in-home visits with local residents. And I can tell you that we went all over the community, and just the feedback has just been tremendous. We asked them to complete surveys, which they all did. And the only comment that we've received, really, besides how great it was please bring it back next year. I believe all of the surveys, with the exception of one, were 5s out of a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the highest, and the only one below that was 4, and the only complaint was that it wasn't the real Santa. So we'll try to improve on that next year. But overall, just a really great program. I'm really happy with the staff and what they were able to do over those 2 weeks, and just really working hard to right up into the finish line. So we estimate that for our special events in December, we had 4,460 participants for all the different events. And just to note, the Santa on Wheels, we had 60 total rentals, so 60 different Santa visits, and we estimated about 15 to 20 per visit. Our contract classes, we still had 2 classes going on in December with just about 380 participants. And sports fields were down considerably just due to the weather and people being off school and things, but we still had 4 leagues out there, most from travel teams, with approximately 300 residents over the month. Next slide. Next slide. And this is just a breakdown of the number of participants that I discussed, the revenue associated with a lot of those. We try to keep our costs for these programs very low for the residents to be able to afford. So you'll see there just what those brought in. You'll see that our numbers are up from November, a little bit lower than October, but still pretty solid at $15,029 in revenue for the month of December. And special events, we're winding down a little bit, but we're getting ready for the next couple that we have coming up. The Spring Fest event will be held at La Ladera Park on March 19th, Saturday, March 19th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll have pictures of the Easter Bunny, vendors, candy, arts and crafts. The vendors typically hand out eggs for the kids too, so it's a little bit of a modified egg hunt, but it's still an opportunity for kids to bring their Easter baskets and have that experience as well. And then the Menifee Better Together event will be held Saturday, April 23rd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., focusing on Quail Valley and Sun City. That'll be a partnership with the Habitat for Humanity, Public Works, Parks, quite a few different partners involved in that. And then we are going to be working with Menifee Pony Baseball and Menifee Valley Little League to do a pretty special event. Hopefully we're able to do it. We have to get an application approved, but it's called Pitch, Hit, and Run, and it's sponsored by Pepsi. And it's basically a baseball skills competition. They pitch, hit, and run, as the name would designate. And there's age groups that they're broken down into. The kids participate. The top 3, I believe it is, in each category and in each age group go on to a regional competition typically held at Angel Stadium. And then the winners of that, I think it's the top in each age group for each region, move on to the All-Star game and actually get to go to the All-Star game to participate in the finals. So it's a really great experience. It's free for all kids. They just have to live in the city that they're participating in and just get local league support, which I believe we have, and we're just hoping that we get the date secured from Major League Baseball. So the application for that will be going in the next couple days. And I believe that concludes my report this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great job, and I'd just like to mention that the former Chair Rosen and the menorah lighting event was a great success. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there, but I heard nothing but great stuff about it, and looking forward to that next year. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. And so, Mark, did you want to give us a maintenance division report? Tell us about fumigating Lazy Creek.
All the fun things. First of all, Happy New Year. Hopefully everything went well for everybody. Well, first of all, on here we've got Amar Newport Road and Murphy Ranch Road, which we just went through the developer turnover, but it's still in other people's hands until it's finalized. Lazy Creek, we just received all the LED lights for the park, so all the head units, hopefully they'll be installed within the next week or two. So we'll see a little difference out there. It was kind of slow, but we still had 62 work orders last month, and we got them all complete, even with people being on vacation and everything, so we were able to do that. I think everything else is going pretty smooth, so any questions?
At 100%, what are you going to do for the next of the year?
Oh, there's more. It's a daily event. We did deal with the rain a little bit. A lot of leaks at K Center. So my guys were up on the roof while it was raining, and so we're going to have to deal with that. Hopefully we got it squared up. But that was one heck of a storm that came through there. So it was built in the late '80s. So anyway,
Excellent.
I'll highlight a couple of special projects that Mark's crew has been working on. Part of the CIPs included the monument improvements, park monument improvements, so they're doing the painting and the sealing of those. And then, as the chair mentioned, the tenting of Lazy Creek. long overdue, and I know Aisha is really happy to have it done, just so that the building stays in one piece. It's unique because it's an old HOA facility, and was never really constructed for that kind of public use. So that's just the first step, first phase in improvements that we're planning to do to the facility. Bottom two pictures you can see there. There were some trellises off the front of the building that we removed because they really do invite certain kind of pests, and then also screen the building from folks passing by on the streets. And so this way you can really see in, and folks can't hide behind stuff. It actually improves the front appearance, just like we did at the Case Menifee Center. So Mark's guys, as well as Public Works, help with demoing that, and so everything is put back together now, so to speak.
When I moved here in the 80s, I bought a house there in that Meadowwood neighborhood is what it was called. Meadowwood? Meadow something. And there was a swimming pool at Lazy Creek Park. I remember that. Long gone now. All right. Well, thank you very much, staff, for that. Commissioner Gidroy?
Mark, you mentioned the roof leaking. What is the projected time that we have before we have to re-roof the Case in Aceros?
Well, the county, this is from when I was back there, they actually did the white part down there on
Yeah.
the bottom, but it's where the tiles are.
Okay.
It's in need, so, I don't know what the funding for it.
Well, that's where I was going with this.
Yeah, and I mean, but that was it was a heck of a storm, and we just, they went up there in the toughest time, and.
Yeah, because they're saying El Nino is going to keep coming, and if this roof is ready to start leaking, it's ready to fail maybe next.
And the county and Valley White, for the 1 year that they had the building, all the drains were clogged, and so my guys have been up on the roof 4 times clearing out drains for the roto-rooter, and rocks are coming out. And
Oh, man.
pieces of tar, and so, I mean, we've got everything flowing, we've got everything going, the way it's supposed to, but there's only so much we can do. So I got guys that don't get too shove it up into under the flashing, whatever we gotta do to seal up whatever we can. So.
Okay.
To answer Commissioner Royce's question, every year we apply for, or we get an allocation of CDBG dollars for capital improvements. The past 2 years, we've used it to do improvements at Case Menifee Center because it's eligible just simply because it services seniors. So we did set aside an earmarked amount to do more improvements at KC. We may just now have a project in mind to spend those dollars on. So,
I know roofs don't come cheap.
no, they don't.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we move on? All right, thank you. We're on item 10, Commissioner Reports. Anybody have any comments or committee activities they want to report?
We were all at the
Yeah.
the new park at Menifee. Everyone was there. It was really packed. It was beautiful. I mean, that park is gorgeous. Brookfield does one hell of a job of making parks. And the park actually has a couple of brand-new tennis courts. It's really very nice.
Yep. I'll add something. Marty and I were having a discussion earlier, and we were thinking about DIF money that's collected from residential developers for parks and trails. And we weren't sure if it's ever been considered to also have a DIF for commercial development for parks and trails. I'm just curious if we're going into uncharted waters with that question, or if that's something that's worth considering.
So the city is in a very long process of a DIF study right now. And I know that the plan was to bring something back to City Council in February with the breakdown of all of the DIF fees, proposed DIF fees, and who they would apply to. I'm not sure if it identified commercial developers as well as residential, but typically they apply to a very broad group of people who are submitting applications, so they could.
Is this something that we could put on a future agenda item, as a future agenda item for discussion, to make a recommendation?
Perhaps it might be an opportunity for a draft of the diff study to come for you guys just to review and, and see before, so you can give some recommendations. I can certainly inquire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this brings to mind something, Bill could relate to this. Public art. We're building industrial parks in the future. Are we going to have something, have we thought about having something incorporated into those areas for the folks who'll be working there? I don't know if that's ever come up, but I'd like to see that brought up as a recommendation, if nothing else.
Was that addressed in the Parks Master Plan?
There is a section in there about public art and parks, and that's a component we wanted to expand upon as we continue to grow. I think there's many opportunities, whether they be through historical markers or like overpasses, things like that. Those will continue to be available moving forward as we continue to grow different infrastructure pieces.
Yeah, what comes to mind is our new town center over there. You're going to have commercial, you're going to have a courthouse. What a great opportunity to create some artistic synergy there.
Something that people could put their art on.
Right, and if you'll recall on the conceptual design, the Central Park site does include an art pavilion. The missing piece to it is getting kiosks to place out there that are lockable so artists can, display their wares during events or whenever else. And then also there's performance art that'll be at the amphitheater. And then finally, adjacent to the park site is going to be the future City Hall. And there has been some discussion about that being a multi-purpose location, not just a city hall, but also like a conference or events center, meaning meeting space, meeting rooms, where people can come and, experience trade shows or fairs, things like that, in that space.
And I'll add that there's a project right on the corner here, Rich Development is doing, and when they were processing that plan, it was kind of a high intensity with lots of bulk and to basically to address the aesthetics, the city asked them to create a couple of public gathering areas or courtyards and then also include some public art in those. And so they reached out to some sculptors, and they actually have entered an agreement with a sculptor that's going to create 2 pieces. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I guess we'll find out once they get a little farther along with the development. So those are the kinds of things that I think we would certainly want to continue to encourage, and I'm glad that that's happening because it kind of sets the tone and an example for other developers that want to come in the door. We may point to that as an example of something that we appreciate. So, anything else, Commissioner comments? All right, so let's move on. Item 11, future agenda requests. Robert, do you want to update on any of that?
Just that the county has already reached out to us and wants to provide a presentation to the commission and the community on January 21st regarding the Salt Creek Trail project.
Good.
So you can get a full update because there's a lot of nuances that I obviously haven't been able to remember to share with you guys. And then answer any questions, obviously, from the community and from the commission. And so they want to come on the 21st, and we'll agendize that as a workshop style. And they're going to be doing some of the advertising, so you may have a number of folks here who want to be participating in it as well.
Cool.
The only other one that I wanted to provide an update on that's not on your list here is at the first meeting in February, likely going to be providing an introduction of new staff that will be replacing as best they can Margarita and Alan. And so we've been in the recruitment process for some time. We've made a couple of selections and offers, and both candidates have accepted, and they're going through screening right now. So hopefully by that meeting, we'll have some great news and some new faces for you all to meet.
Those new positions, can you describe what they're basically going to be doing?
Sure. Margarita's her former position was management analyst within the department. It was responsible for all of the admin functions of the department, overseeing our admin division, but half of her responsibility was also for CDBG administration. With her departure, so does CDBG depart. It is housed in finance now, stays with her. So we took the opportunity to consolidate the position a little bit and really focus what its support is going to be. And it's now an administrative analyst position. They'll be doing everything from over-the-counter point of sale, accounts payable, receivable, commission clerk, everything that comes with our daily activities at the office. And obviously grants management, oversight, submittals, everything. Then the Park and Landscape Maintenance Superintendent position is an upgrade technically from what Alan's analyst position was doing. So in addition to all of the CIPs for each year, they're also going to be the general oversight of the maintenance division and Mark's team and planning for how we're going to transition and take over maintenance responsibilities on the east side. We were sort of being preemptive in staffing up for what we expect to be coming very shortly. More responsibility, we need more expertise to handle all of that. So,
Gotcha. If you have an org chart put together at some time, it'd be nice for us to have just so we can kind of see
absolutely.
who the names are and the players. Marty?
I just wanted to note that future agenda requests, there's a missing item. The historical markers should be there.
I can definitely add it.
Thank you.
I can add it.
That's it.
Anything else? With that, we'll motion to adjourn from someone.
I move we adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.